Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Kissa Thompson. I am the presentation specialist here at OpenStax, located in Houston, Texas. And you are joining us for the Science Interactive webinar today. And we're so excited to have you. In the meantime, while we're waiting for others to join us, please take a moment to let us know where you're joining us from. I see you already got started with that. So thank you. I'm going to give some shout outs. Also use this area to chat amongst yourself, but use the Q&A box when you do have questions pertaining to the webinar, and we will be answering those questions at the very end. In the meantime, let me just say hello to a few people while we wait about 5 more seconds for others to join in. So hello, Pennsylvania. Hello, Florida, Texas. Hello, hello. Okay. And all right, we're just going to wait for a few more people. But hello, everyone that's joining us, and continue to let us know where you're coming from in the chat. Phoenix, hello. Yes, thank you. Okay, Milwaukee, hello, welcome. All right, so please continue to let us know. And we're just going to jump right in. Georgia, hello, everyone. So most of you probably know what OpenStax is, but if you're new to OpenStax, there are a few key things you'll want to know. First, OpenStax is an education initiative based out of Rice University, a 501c3 nonprofit organization located in Houston, Texas. OpenStax is a mission-oriented organization, and our mission is to improve education access and learning for everyone. One of our main areas of work is creating a library of openly licensed peer-reviewed textbooks. These textbooks are available for free online in WebView and PDF formats. Over the last decade, we have become the world's largest publisher of free open education resources. OpenStax has had a large impact on students and instructors across the globe. Since publishing our first textbooks in 2012, we have saved 7 million students over 2.9 billion in textbook costs. OpenStax's main area of work is offering over 70 open licensed textbooks for college and K-12 courses. Over 2,200 colleges in 153 countries are using the OpenStax textbooks. These accomplishments would not have been possible without the support of our OpenStax allies like Science Interactive and instructors like you. All of our books are designed to meet the standard scope and sequence requirements of the respective courses and are written and reviewed by subject matter experts who are compensated for their work. Each of our books also goes through an extensive peer review process to ensure that the content is up to date, clear to understand, and inclusive and representative of diverse audiences. Our textbooks look like a lot of the other textbooks that are out there. However, unlike textbooks that aren't OER, our textbooks are 100% free and are available under an open license. So instructors can modify, revise, and rearrange the content any way they like. Here at OpenStax, we offer much more than just textbooks. Each of our books come with its own unique suite of free instructors and student resources. These can include test banks, lecture slides, solution guides, LMS course cartridges, and customizable doc files of each book. Accessibility is one of OpenStax's top priorities. To make our books as widely available as possible, we offer our textbook for free on our website in an interactive WebView format. You can also download for free PDF copies of our textbooks on our website. This option is particularly helpful for students who lack reliable internet access. Since our textbooks are available for free online, students can access our book from day one of class. From our research, we learned that 100% of students prefer print. We sell our textbook at a low cost through our Amazon page and campus bookstore. Additionally, our free instructors and student resources are also available for free on our website. To protect the academic integrity of our resources, instructors must create an instructor's account to download our instructor's resources. All instructor's account requests are manually verified by our customer support team, ensuring only instructors are using our resources like test banks. As our library of textbooks continue to grow, we're excited to share numerous titles that we have published last spring. We have 8 nursing titles and Introduction to Python Programming. If you would like additional information about any of these titles, please reach out to our customer support team via our OpenStax website. Here at OpenStax, we know that digital technology is essential for teaching, especially in today's hybrid learning environment, and that finding the right technology for our course can be challenging. We decided to help streamline this process through partnering with nearly 100 education technology organizations that offer products aligned with each of our textbooks. In exchange for using our content in their products, our technology partners, known as allies, provide us with mission support fee. Ultimately, OpenStax allies enrich OpenStax material with low cost, high value resources to support instructors and students while providing support to OpenStax to keep the books current and accessible. Now we'll pass it over to Science Interactive and enjoy the webinar.
Thank you so much and welcome everyone. We're so glad to have you here with us today. My name is Kate Runne-Janczy and I am the Chief Academic Officer here at Science Interactive. I have worked for the last 10 years in the development of labs designed for online learners. And I'm very excited to have with us today Melissa Kelly, Assistant Professor of Biology from Allegany College of Maryland, who's going to be sharing more about how she's incorporated both OpenStax text and our online labs into her courses. But before we get to that, I did want to share with you a little bit of data from Science Interactive's annual lab report. In 2024, we launched our second annual lab report to better understand the state of online and on-campus laboratory education. And this survey included insights from over 2,100 students and educators. Just to quickly introduce you to who we surveyed as a part of the study, for our students, we had roughly 1,900 respondents and a little over half being science majors. And 91% of these students having taken at least one online laboratory course within the last year. When it came to our instructors, we had roughly 300 respond, and 3/4 of those were adjunct or tenured instructors, with the other 25% representing deans and department chairs. Of our faculty members, we had roughly 50% of those who had taught at least one online lab, if not exclusively on labs, and we had a slightly higher representation of our community and technical college versus our four-year institutions, with 60% of respondents being at a community or technical college. Now, some of the things we really wanted to understand in our survey were, the challenges that come with bringing a laboratory course online. As many of you may understand and know, lab courses were really one of the last frontiers to move into online course modalities because of the challenges perceived in bringing these courses online successfully. When speaking to our faculty members in the survey, really the top challenges cited were quality, recreating that quality hands-on experience for students was cited as a top challenge by 80% of respondents. An additional nearly 80% were also concerned about the affordability of the lab course for students when moving online. And of course, when moving a lab course online, there are many considerations that come in with that redevelopment of the course materials. And so limited resources, whether that be time or just man hours, really was cited by 50% of our respondents. But there are ways to overcome these challenges with moving lab courses online. Of our faculty members who had taught an online course, 75% cited that hands-on labs performed online were comparable to an in-person lab experience. Additionally, when it came to affordability, 71% of students said the cost of an hands-on lab kit was aligned with the value of being able to do the laboratory course at home. In addition, 56% of the STEM educators we surveyed implemented OER resources to help address some of those affordability concerns. Finally, when it came to limited resources, 3/4 of our instructors using hands-on lab kits cited that they were really easy to incorporate in their course, helping to alleviate some of those concerns around time and resources. But one essential thing that came up, really bubbled up within the survey, was how essential the hands-on lab experience was for students, as well as for faculty and administrators in online courses. 84% of our deans and department chairs said that hands-on labs were the most effective format for online students to learn the concepts involved in their science courses. Additionally, 3/4 of our faculty members said the hands-on labs in their courses were comparable to an in-person lab experience. And then for our students, 83% of them cited that the hands-on labs helped them learn the knowledge and skills they needed to continue on in their course of study. And that number held true whether the students were non-majors, maybe taking a science course once before they moved on to their major, or for majors-based students who are moving on to subsequent lab courses and needing to apply those skills either in additional online or in-person environments. There are many options, though, for allowing or for supporting an online lab course. And virtual simulations are another way to address teaching labs online in place of a hands-on experience. But there are challenges with using virtual simulations alone. Of the instructors using virtual simulations only in their online lab course, 60% said that students would have learned more had they had a hands-on experience. Nevertheless, there is an opportunity for students with the virtual labs, and that's really in creating an engaging environment and helping students prepare for their lab course. For students who use simulations, 91% said that they did make their online lab course more engaging. And both for on-campus and online students, both groups cited that the simulations were helpful as a practice lab to prepare them for either doing a hands-on online lab or an on-campus lab. So there is an opportunity to enrich the online and the on-campus experience with the use of virtual simulations. So when we consider all that, how does Science Interactive support really high quality lab delivery for all students? At Science Interactive, our goal is to ensure that all students, no matter where they are taking their laboratory course, have the opportunity to have engaging hands-on experiences. And we do this in a multitude of ways. Many of you may be familiar with us with the delivery of our hands-on lab kits, where we develop a curriculum and hands-on labs that are customized to an institution's learning outcomes, giving students the opportunity to perform labs in an at-home environment and achieve their goals within the STEM fields. However, we also work with on-campus labs with our virtual pre-labs that help better prepare students and help them maximize their time in the on-campus lab by improving their preparation for the on-campus course. We support 14 different science disciplines, and all of our disciplines are Quality Matter certified with over 450 hands-on and digital experiments available. And I'm really excited to share here today that later this summer we'll be including or adding our 15th discipline, nursing, which will be launching at the end of June. Of our disciplines that we have available today, 8 of them are aligned with OpenStax textbooks, including our anatomy and physiology, biology, and chemistry. And we're looking forward to incorporating the nursing OpenStax text soon as well. And so with OpenStax, we offer everything your students need to learn and everything you need to teach for one platform. We allow for an affordable experience with the combination of our lab kits and the OpenStax textbooks integrated directly into our platform. We offer an accessible experience that is WCAG 2.0 compliant with a mix of hands-on labs, virtual simulations, pre-labs, and the OpenStax textbooks. And it's an academically rigorous experience with all of the labs being written by our PhD scientists, reviewed by Quality Matters, and reviewed by external subject matter experts who are teaching in the science fields. So what does this all-in-one experience look like? So what we're going to walk through really quickly is an example from our anatomy and physiology discipline, which incorporates a mix of virtual simulations, hands-on labs, and the OpenStax text. For students using OpenStax in combination with Science Interactive, when they enter their course, they will have direct access to the OpenStax textbooks in their menu. And then within the curriculum, they'll find a mix of virtual simulations. Here we have in our digestive systems lab, histology of the digestive structures, where they'll be using a virtual microscope to evaluate histology slides. And that's going to be paired with our rigorous introductory content and our protocols, where you as the faculty member can go in and embed references to the different chapters you've covered within the OpenStax text for students to easily access and review. And this can also pair with the hands-on activities. So we have our fetal pig dissection as also as a part of the digestive system lab. You can link back out to the OpenStax text within the platform to allow students to review what exactly do these digestive structures that I'm looking with do in relation to the anatomy of our fetal pig. And so really our goal here is to bring all of these together, the virtual simulations, the hands-on labs, the OpenStax textbook, to allow students to have really an all-in-one solution to have for their science lab course. They'll have the ability to review their text, perform their labs, and supplement their learning with the virtual simulations, allowing them to have a rigorous and engaging home lab experience. And with our LMS integration, this can become even more seamless. We can integrate directly into the learning management system that you're using on campus to ensure that the labs are in line with the rest of your content. So students click the link, they'll go directly to the lab and they can return to the LMS. And the grades for the student's lab will sync directly back into your learning management system once those labs are complete. Now, I'm excited to pass things over to Melissa Kelly, Assistant Professor of Biology at Allegany College, to share more about how she's incorporated these labs into her course. Melissa, I'll hand it over to you.
Thanks, Kate. My name is Melissa Kelly, and I am an Assistant Professor of Biology at Allegany College. We're located in Western Maryland. I teach microbiology and anatomy and physiology. I've taught in person, and primarily I teach online at this point. My students range in age and experience from early college to later career changers, and they're primarily allied health. So our school has a pretty robust online LPN to RN bridge program with reciprocity across 17 different states. So my students can actually be in different time zones while they're taking my online courses. My background is clinical medicine. Before I started teaching, I worked for over a decade as a clinical paramedic. So I understand the hands-on learning and why it's so important to have those hands-on activities and also real-world application. And so my goal in designing my courses is to try to mirror that classroom experience in an online environment. OpenStax really allows me to link specific textbook content from right to my LMS. So the courses that I've designed include video lectures. I've supplemented them by using OpenStax materials, and I absolutely took advantage of all those instructor resources. I've used that for some of my testing for the question banks and also to actually create the videos. I feel like this gives the benefit of allowing for more flexibility and more options and accessibility for the students, so they can watch the videos, they can also read the content. And the way it's presented in these kind of bite-sized little chunks helps to avoid kind of the traditional, when you think about textbooks and you think you're reading 20, 30 pages from a science textbook, that can be overwhelming. So they get kind of little bite-sized pieces. I take my lecture videos, they match up with the OpenStax content, and it really gives the students a lot of options that match their learning styles. Of course, it's free, so that's a really big benefit, especially for these career changer students that a lot of times are selecting programs based on their affordability. The reality is that online labs can't fully replicate in-person experience. So what I've tried to focus on are those key high application skills. For microbiology, that's things like aseptic technique, identifying bacteria and their characteristics. And I feel like the platform, the SI platform, really allows feedback for individual skills on each assignment. So while they're missing that face-to-face guidance that they would get in an in-person lab, they are getting kind of one-on-one feedback with the skills that they've turned in through their online labs and getting some of that engagement with me, their professor, in smaller tidbits, as opposed to just getting a grade for one assignment. They get a lot of good feedback. Some of the labs aren't feasible at all to do at home. The equipment's too expensive. I'll talk a little bit about the microscope and what we've chosen to do with that at our college. But I've been able to create some virtual versions of labs that kind of take the place of that equipment. So PCR testing, for example, they have a virtual lab to do for that. So it allows them to be introduced to those techniques and to be aware of them, but again, maintains the affordability of an online environment. And of course, the biggest benefit is this flexibility. The labs can be completed by these students online on their own time. All my assignments have deadlines, but they have some flexibility in when and where they're going to complete those lab activities. My focus here at ACM and for this presentation is really on microbiology, but just to very quickly speak about the other course I teach, the anatomy and physiology, the lab kit really does do a good job of mirroring our in-person lab course. They do multiple dissections to study different body systems. They get that small, but I can tell you it's a very detailed skeletal model. And they use clay to create like models of the brain and muscles. And it really provides a lot of kinesthetic learning opportunities. So again, you're getting additional delivery methods to help increase the accessibility for students. The same is really true for microbiology. And what I've done here is this list covers some of the topics that I explore through the experiments provided by the SI Lab Kit using their platform. And in those virtual supplements, I've been able to link and create my own lessons that link other OER resources. HHMI is a great example. They have these wonderful biointeractive labs that I can kind of plant in the SI program. And so it kind of minimizes confusion by we're asking students to learn our LMS, which is Brightspace. They learn the SI online platform, which we use across all of these LP and RN Bridge courses, both anatomies and microbiology in our intro bio course. So they kind of get used to that and they don't have to click on so many different websites to get these virtual experiences. All the materials for each semester and each course come in this one big box. It gets shipped directly to the students. So for us, that's super convenient because our students get their bookstore vouchers and they go into SI and they order their kit and it ships them directly. So we at the college don't need to stock. We don't need to worry about any kind of ordering stuff. It's all taken care of, which is really helpful, especially when you have students. For us in Maryland, all the way in Texas, it makes things a lot easier. These photos were taken in my lab using materials from the SI microbiology kit. As you can see from the one on the left, they're pretty well organized and well labeled, so there's not a lot of confusion. Students don't have to be able to identify every single piece of equipment. It's kind of organized in these little packages. I've personally tested a lot of these micro lab experiments. That's what the photos have come from. And I wouldn't say I was pleasantly surprised because I expected it to work, but I was pleased with the results that I got in my lab, and then also pleased semester after semester. The students are able to successfully grow microbiology cultures from these kind of freeze-dried samples that they get in their kits, and there's really a pretty minimal contamination, which kind of shows you while some of the equipment is very simple and not what we would use in a traditional lab, it is effective in teaching them the techniques that we want them to get. I do recommend, especially for microbiology, that you test your experiments just to verify the results. And this is no offense to Kate, because their team does a great job, but there is some variability in bacterial samples and in the different strains. So they don't always match the answer sheets as far as like what you expect, especially from some of the biochemical testing. The good news is they will send you your own instructor kit every semester. And for me, I always get excited because lab time is kind of my playtime. So I get to do the experiments in my lab, and it also helps me identify these like teaching opportunities in the instructions for the lab, and also relate course concepts and stress some of the more difficult techniques. Before I talk about the advantages, I just want to share a short story about course design. A couple semesters ago, I was asked to teach anatomy and physiology 2 weeks before the semester started. I had not taught that class online before. I had the lecture content from a blended course, thankfully, but I had no lab to speak of for online. And SI was really critical in helping me set that course up and meet the deadline. Nursing wanted to add a section to this class last minute, and I would not have been able to do it without Science Interactive. I've been using them previously for microbiology, but you really get a full, everything you need to kind of add that lab component to the course. So their platform is fairly easy to use. As Kate says, it integrates with your LMS. All of the instructions for the labs are there. Most of the equipment that they need, they have to buy a couple things here and there, like bleach and stuff for at-home use, but almost everything they need comes in the kit. And I was able to pretty seamlessly integrate it. And I did hit that deadline. I would not recommend to anyone to wait to the last minute to kind of design a course. It was super stressful, but I definitely wouldn't have been able to do it on my own. I mean, having that support from SI was just necessary to get that course off the ground. And from there, I really love, one of the biggest things that I love about SI is that you can customize the content. So once I had a couple semesters under my belt, I was able to go back and change some of the experiments. I've changed some of the questions. You can modify or write your own critical thinking questions that kind of come with their labs. You can create custom lessons. So I have my own, like, entirely 100% me created, but on their platform. And that I think is really helpful if you have individual things that you want to do in your course that might not be applicable to, kind of the general, what we think of as an A&P or a micro class. You can certainly do that using the same kind of presentation to the students, which is nice. The grading is also super easy. The grading system, I grade right on the SI platform. You can grade by student or by question. I like to grade by individual question because I can copy and paste feedback. I feel like it maintains equity across students when I'm grading. And again, those students get that individual feedback on the skills that they're showing you that they've accomplished or on the questions that they're answering. So it replaces that face-to-face feedback they'd get in an in-person course, enhancing that remote learning opportunity. And like Kate said, fully integrated. As soon as I grade on SI, it's connected to Brightspace, which is our LMS. Grades get uploaded right away. So there's no extra stuff that I have to do when I do my grading. The microscope, I inherited this course a couple years ago when one of my colleagues retired, and I was initially kind of like way surprised that we didn't have our students buying a microscope. Like, how do you teach microbiology without a microscope? But I realized after that first semester that the virtual microscope really has a lot of benefits. Affordability being a huge one for microbiology. To teach using a microscope, you'd need a pretty advanced scope, and that's a couple $100 added to the course fees. But really the feasibility of teaching scope skills, and this is a consensus between the colleagues that I work with here that teach online courses, it's difficult to do online. And even the in-person students that I have struggle with microscope skills. So by using the virtual scope, it really mimics the functionality of a real scope. They still have to click the button to turn it on, set it up, focus it, change the magnification. But I feel like it puts the focus on understanding what the students are seeing through that virtual microscope as opposed to learning how to use a microscope. In a perfect world, I'd love to send them all scopes and teach them how to use it. But I feel like this is one of those, the cost versus benefits. It's a huge benefit to have that virtual platform. And it provides grading consistency for you as an instructor, and it gives exemplars for the students. So if their technique isn't perfect, they still get a good example of what they're supposed to be looking at. The exploratory content that Kate talked about with each lab is really awesome. It helps align what they're doing hands-on with what they've done in the lecture portion. In my course, a lot of times they're learning the content really early on, but then they're coming back to it in the lab. So that helps reinforce those concepts when they have to revisit it again. For students, I feel like some of the advantages are obviously this hands-on lab practice. They can't get it any other way outside of a laboratory environment. For microbiology specifically, the bacterial samples that are included, are also present in the human microbiome. So for my allied health students, this is really nice because they can compare those known samples that they've received and constituted from SI with samples they're taking from their own human body or their environmental samples, and they get to compare them and kind of learn what those normal microbiome microbes really look like. They're relatively safe to use, especially since a lot of these students are doing these labs at homes in their kitchens or garages. And again, I love the personal feedback that I get. SI support is always one of the benefits that the students talk about. Every semester, inevitably, one of them will throw away their bacteria by accident. They have to keep it alive throughout the semester. And SI is awesome with sending them replacement materials. So even when those mistakes happen, they can get any of their lab materials replaced fairly easily. I know the phone support is huge, and the email and technical support is also a big plus. For students, that's great. For me, that's also awesome because I don't have to worry about talking students through those tech challenges that inevitably come up in an online course. The student feedback I get from these labs, we all have those students that are just aiming to pass. They just want to do what they have to do to get through the course. But generally, the feedback that I get is really positive. Students feel like it really helps them to understand the material better. Those labs, both the virtual labs and the hands-on labs, provide them that skill building. They're doing some of these skills repetitively, and it gives them this error-based learning. So one of the things that I focus on in my courses is that I give them credit even when they make mistakes, even when their experiments don't work out the way that we expect them to. And the big thing I focus on is, can you tell me what went wrong? Did you not follow this step? Did you forget to do this particular, skill, or what could you have done better? And so it really teaches them based on their kind of error base, like gives them that feedback that, again, they would have in a face-to-face course but aren't getting online. So to kind of wrap this up, I'm not being paid by SI to do this. I've used them for several years now, and I really love their platform. The experience has been great so far. My SI contact, my rep, Jan Benedict, is like a concierge. I can call her for all kinds of stuff. I've also talked to the student support specialist, and I can verify what the students say. They're helpful too. It's really helped me to overcome those challenges of online learning. It's affordable, customizable, appropriately challenging, without being overwhelming to my students. And we're a community college-based system, so a lot of our students have varying experiences and backgrounds. And most importantly, I think it gives them the flexibility to do this on their own time at home. And important to me, can't avoid it. It's very convenient for me as an instructor, both with everything that they help provide and with what they provide for the students. So thank you all for listening to me and for letting me share my experience with you. And I'll pass it back to Kate.
Thank you. So to sum it all up, I skipped a slide. To sum it all up, we're really excited to share with you today our all-in-one experience with bringing laboratory courses to students online. With Science Interactive, we offer that combination of hands-on lab experiments and interactive virtual simulations to ensure students both have the opportunity to perform those essential hands-on skills within their laboratory courses, as well as engaging students through the use of the virtual simulations. And that comes in combination with the use of our OpenStax textbooks from OpenStax to allow students to engage more deeply with the content and reference that throughout their lab experience. So we're excited to open some things up for some questions. Melissa, I already have a few for you, and I'll keep an eye on the chat as we go through if any more come in. Okay, so first, very microbiology specific question here. How do you account for timing of incubation for your microbiology courses and making sure students stay on track when there is quite a bit of time-intensive nature to the micro course?
I am so glad that question was asked, because I actually had a little blurb that I kind of skipped over when I was doing my presentation. I went to the AMSCU conference. If you're in micro, you know what that is, but it's a undergraduate the Society for Microbiology conference on teaching, and I'm not ashamed to say I borrowed an idea that from one of the presenters there, that I have this late without penalty policy for labs. So the way that I've built kind of my lab courses is they have assignments that are due each week. It's either one or two of the labs. Sometimes it's a virtual lab. Usually they complement each other. Like I kind of match up the staining lab with a virtual gram stain lab to get them to learn these materials. And you're absolutely right. What I found is that some students, their cultures will grow in 2 days. Some students, it's 5 or 6 days. So I have due dates for every lab. But I stress early on, you have to start your experiments early. And then I've built in this 1 week late without penalty kind of grace period. And what I tell the students is plan to get your experiments done on the due date. But if you don't, that's okay, because you can still turn it in up to 1 week after that due date. I'll accept it without a late penalty. And for microbiology, it works really, really well because it keeps them on target with the due dates, but it also allows for that flexibility. So if they're kind of set up, like the incubation times can vary. It depends on what climate they're in, what the humidity is, all those different variables on how fast their microbes grow. I get a lot of email questions about, with pictures, like, is this okay to turn in or do I need to wait? And so having the course policies support the lab in that respect, you can really set it up to give them kind of the best opportunity to do their best work, but not have to worry about really strict deadlines. So I hope I've answered that question.
No, that's amazing. Okay, the next question I have for you is, how do you address safety in the labs at home? I'll let you start and then I'll chime in with a little bit on what we do.
Yeah, sure. So SI has several introductory labs. One of those is a lab safety, and it's a general one, so it kind of applies to every course. They have to complete that first. And really, in each lab, the instructions are such that it tells them specifically what to do with their samples. So there's a lot of bleaching and how to get rid of them appropriately. The bacteria that are used, that are provided in the labs, are E. coli and S. epididymis. So relatively safe, low biohazard level samples. Of course, there's no controlling for the environmental samples that they take. The students will take samples from their own bodies for a ubiquity lab, kind of grow them. But as long as they follow the instructions, they do a relatively good job. And there's not a lot of, like, they use candles for aseptic. I was a little skeptical, but I've done it a couple times in the lab, and it does do a relatively good job of maintaining that aseptic field and reducing contamination. And as long as the students can follow instructions, I feel that it's there's always some risks, but we present those and it's a relatively safe experience.
Yeah, and you covered what I was going to chime in, which was a safety lab with the safety contract. All students they cannot enter any of the experiment-based labs until they've completed that safety lab. And then within the kits, we do provide all the PPE that are going to be required for students. And we do incorporate lab-specific safety information throughout. Okay. Next one, how did you approach selecting the labs that were the best fit for your course?
So for microbiology, it was, I got those labs from another instructor. And I know that there's a couple other experiments available, but what I had really worked. So I didn't have to do a lot of tweaking. For anatomy and physiology, there was some tweaking involved. And I think it really comes down to SI will give you their kind of curated course that they've built for a general microbiology or a general. And then you can go through that list and customize it. My rep from SI was great with that. They'll give you the specific cost details. And I know a bunch of people are asking about the cost of the kits. I'll let Kat come back to that. But But as far as selecting, you really want to pick the ones that you feel will work the best with your course. What do you want to stress? And then again, what I've added to it is those virtual experiences. So there's a couple, I do a kind of pandemic simulation lab, I do an ELISA lab, I do a PCR lab, that kind of get built on the back end because I have so many allied health students. I do a section of my course on medical microbiology, so I've been able to add those in. And, but you do have a lot of, I mean, the micro one especially, there was a lot of different stuff that I had to choose from. So I think I'm doing everything except for 2 or 3 of the experiments that are available in micro. And for A&P, I mean, they've gone so far as to help me try to find other alternatives to mammal specimens other than the fetal pig that's currently. So they'll work with you if it's something that you really want to include. I know they'll be helpful to your needs.
Yeah, and you are right. We do have a few questions on cost, so I'll explain a little bit about that. The cost does vary depending on the discipline, depending on the number of labs, and depending on the number of virtual simulations versus hands-on experiences you select for your course. So it is quite variable. What we do through our process of helping you align or tailor the kit to your course is that we will do that customized pricing for you, and it does really vary on a course-to-course and syllabi-to-syllabi basis based on those 3 factors: discipline, number of labs, and types of experiences you're looking at.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I just want to add real quick to that. Again, I'm not being paid by SI, but I have had the opportunity to kind of look around at other companies that provide kits, and I can say that SI is probably the most affordable of the ones that I've looked at. So just for what that's worth.
Awesome. No, thank you for adding that in. I think we have one more. I think we've got almost everything. Let me check our chat one more time. The last question, and I'm happy to start this one, and then Melissa, if you want to add in, it's a question about accessibility and ADA accessibility. So all of the content built by Science Interactive is WCAG 2.0 compliant. And we have an instructional designer on site who does test and review all of the labs that we develop to make sure it's meeting those guidelines. I don't know if accessibility has come up for your team, Melissa, on campus.
Yes, yeah, all of our courses are Quality Matters certified. So especially for online, it's important for us to meet those same standards. And me personally, I try to give as many different types of accessibility, content that I can. All my videos, the college provides some closed captioning software, not so great for science-heavy disciplines like micro, but I was able to create so I have transcripts for all my videos, and I've created outlines. AI is awesome for that. Just as a side plug, it's a great tool for teachers to use. And so with our course, our LMS on Brightspace being Quality Matters certified, ADA compliant, and then knowing that everything that's also on the SI platform also meets those standards, you don't have to worry about it. So that's another nice benefit.
And there was a follow-up question. Does it work with screen readers? Yes, we have tested it on screen readers, and the content does work on screen readers. So before we jump off for the day, I did want to share with you all, if you are interested in learning more about the data I showed a little bit earlier on the state of online and on-campus labs, we do have a QR code here you can use to download that report. Other than that, I want to thank you all for joining us today. Thank you, Melissa, so much for joining us and sharing your experiences. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
And we look forward to meeting with you all again in the future.
Thank you. So, are you good with questions? Everything you're ready to wrap up?
Yep,
today?
I think we're good. Yep.
Okay, awesome. I just want to make sure. I want to thank everyone for joining us today. Thank you so much, Science Interactive. I like to make sure that you guys are good and everyone got their questions answered. But if you do have any further questions, please reach out to Science Interactive. And they will get back to you. Again, if you have any questions for us, OpenStax, reach out to us directly. In the meantime, enjoy the rest of your day, and we look forward to seeing you at future OpenStax Ally webinars. And thank you, Science Interactive for being an amazing technology partner. And to everyone who joined us today, thank you and bye for now. Enjoy the rest of your day.